Hello everyone, in this video I'll be explaining functions in Python. So firstly, what is function? Function is a block of code which only runs when it is called. You can pass data known as parameter into a function. A function can return a data as a result. So for example, when our previous code, when you want to output something, you will use a print statement, which is just, for example, print hello. And don't forget that the correct syntax of this is you have to put any word you want to print out in a quotation. So print hello, you can see now that you can see an output of hello here. But when it comes to function, you cannot write function this way. So to call a function, use the function name followed by parenthesis. So this is just the syntax of writing a Python function. Just like anytime you want to write a function in Python, we start with def. So after def, you are going to specify the name of your function, just like my underscore function. And from the rule of variable naming, there must not be a space in between any variable naming you are giving. That's why we use underscore here. So def must be a keyword that start any function. So this is what will make Python to recognize that you are writing a Python function. So def my underscore function, then we open a parenthesis, we close it, then we return hello from a function. And how can you see the result? We can only see the result by calling back the function. And how can you call the function? Is by putting the function name, just like my underscore function that we use here. Then you open a parenthesis and close it in front of it. So that's the method of calling a Python function. You use the name, then you put opening parenthesis and closing it in front of it to call the function. Then you can see that the first function that we written, that we display here, there is no argument. What is argument? Argument, information can be passed into function as argument. Argument are sorry, argument are specified after the function name. Inside the parenthesis you can add, just like inside this parenthesis you can add something inside of it, and that's what we call argument. Just like this, can you see? This is another example. Def sum of three numbers, that is, we are writing a function to sum three different number. So, and how can we write it? This is the function name, which is sum of three numbers. Sum of three numbers. Then this number one, number two, number three, these are the arguments inside. These are the argument of this function, and this is it. Inside this parenthesis we can see it, number one, number two, number three, and then total equals to number one, because we are summing them, number one, number two, number three. And one thing you will notice here is that we are only giving the names of those, just like the variable names for those value. We are not imputing the value yet. So this is just like total equals to number one plus number two plus number three, then we are returning the total. And also take note that anytime you are writing a function, you have to return what the total output or the result that you need before you call the function. So after returning this total, we use sum of three numbers, which is bracket 47, 80, 38. So these three numbers are the numbers that we want to sum, and when we run this code we will see the addition of these three numbers. You can actually change this number. So if I just use 2, I can change it to just a normal value. If I use 222, so I can see now that my summation is now 6. So these are just the three numbers here. This number one represent this, number two represent this, number three represent this. And this is just the calling out of the function, because if we don't call the function, we are not going to see the result. And don't forget that always use a return statement to return the desired output. So also, this is another example, def greet. So we are writing a function to greet, and this inside this argument we are providing the first name. So and we are returning the first name with hello, how are you. This is just like in form of the greeting, then we are returning the name with it, the first name with it. So here we provided, as our calling of our function, we provided Alexander, we provided Emmanuel, then we provided Oyindamola. And running this cell, we can see that is the calling out of our function is saying Alexander comma hello and how are you, Emmanuel hello and how are you, then Oyindamola hello and how are you. So this is just like calling those function out and returning the first name and also the greeting that we had to it, which is hello and how are you. So let's take note of the calling. We can add print, and the reason why we add print here is that the previous one we don't necessarily add print, but just because we want to print multiple item here, so we need to use print, because if we don't use print it will only recognize the last value, which is Oyindamola. So let's take note of that also. So here to df user details. So user details are just like first name. The argument here is first name, last name. This user details is the names of the function. Then we are returning the first name, then we are returning the last name. But we added this quotation here just to provide a space in between the first name and the last name, and we use this plus to concatenate the first name, the space and the last name. Let's take note of that. Then we try to give our first name as Akinsulere and our last name to be Oyindamola. So if I run it now, we will see now that we have Akinsulere Oyindamola. So the space here is just this quotation mark. If we eliminate this quotation mark, you see now that this both words are joined together. So that quotation mark is just used to provide a space in between. So if I run it now, you can see now that this look more presentable. Also we have keyword argument. And also we have positional argument. What are keyword arguments? So this how you use keyword argument. Just like here, def sibling. Sibling is our function name. We have child 3, child 2 and child 1. So we are returning the youngest child, which is the youngest child, and which is supposed to be child 3, just like the first child, second and the third. So the third child should be the youngest, the youngest of the three. So now sibling, we are calling the function, but here instead of just putting them in this bracket, we have to use a keyword, like we have to assign them to individual name. So as child 1 equals to Emi, child 2 equals to Tobias, child 3 equals to Linus. So here we have to specify those names, that is equals to this particular child. The previous example, we don't necessarily need to do that, but when it comes to keyword argument, we have to specify which is which, that is the argument that we are using for each particular value. So the one we've been working with before is just like positional arguments, though I will still talk more about that. So now if we run it now, you see that this is the third child, but here we have to assign it. So if we don't assign it here, this child 3 can be can we see now that child 3 is the first item here, followed by child 2, followed by child 3. But here it goes like child 1, child 2, child 3, but just because it's been assigned to each and every one of them, there is no need of order here, so we don't need to put them in order. But the one we are working with before, you have to put them in order, that is their position, before it can give an accurate result. But here you don't necessarily need it. Also here df country, then bracket country equals to Norway, return I am from plus country. So now we are writing a code to return the name of a country, just to give a short statement like I am from this particular country. So here the country here is equals to Norway, return I am from. So it's going to concatenate, it's going to bring I am from then plus the country name. But here the first one is Sweden, and you can see the result here, which is I am from then plus country, which is Norway. But just because it's been specified here and we give an argument here, it's going to replace this Norway. So it's going to display I am from Sweden, and the second one is I am from India. But just because this third one there is no argument here, is going to take this Norway inside this bracket. That's why the third one is I am from Norway, and the fourth one is print country, which is Brazil, and it gave I am from Brazil. So this is just like also a keyword argument, that is providing a key to a particular, providing just like assigning a value to a particular variable and providing it in that argument, putting it in that position, like assigning it. If we don't assign it, it must actually take a position, but now we are specifying that this is what to output as your value. So this Norway equals to country, this is going to overwrite it just because we've provided an argument here, and also India, but just because it's not being provided there, it's going to take this Norway and also Brazil. And another example is just like in conditional statement class, we wrote something like this, color, like talking about the traffic light, giving the symbols of green, yellows and red, like telling you when you see this particular color, you know, or see this particular light, you know what it symbolize. So we are just trying to replicate it in function to see how it's been implemented. So we can see now that def traffic light, which is color, if color equals to green, it's going to return the vehicle can move. Elif color equals to yellow, is going to return the vehicle should get set. Elif color equals to red, return the vehicle should stop, else return I don't know the color. So if I run it now, you can see now, just because you provided all this argument, the vehicle can, just for the first one he said the vehicle can move. For the second one, which is yellow, he said the vehicle should get set. The third, the vehicle should stop, which is red, then I don't know the color. So this is just like we giving all the scenario at once instead of placing it one after the other, and you can also do it one after the other, just like this. Let me let me let me quickly, so if we use, we can use a single value and see what is going to happen. So now if I just input only a value, it gave me the vehicle can move just because I use green. And if I use yellow, it's going to tell me that the vehicle should get set. So I can do it individually, then I can put in the argument at a time. So also another example is writing a function to check if a number is greater than each other. That is, if number one is greater than greater than number two, and if number two is greater than three, just like checking for the one that is greater among these. So how can we do that? We define, you know, always note that def must start a function, then we specify the name of function which is greater underscore number, then this is the argument num1, num2, num3. But this one is positional argument, not keyword argument, because here we don't specify if num is this or this, but it's going to take, just like here, it's going to, this three, num1 stand for 300, and this num2 stand for 100, while num3 stand, so this one are in the position of num1, and this one also is in the position of 100, this num3 is in position of 90. So if num1 is greater than num2, and mandatory, and is used to mandatory to make it compulsory for the two condition, that is, the two condition must be met. So if num1 is greater than num2 and num1 is greater, so let's just run it and see what is happening. So now he's able to figure it out that num1 is greater than, like, 300 is greater than 100 and 90 is, so if I just try something now, I try to erase one, let's see if it's going to dictate it accurately. So if I run it now, it's able to tell us that num2 is greater, that is 100 is greater than the rest. So let me add 0 to the last one. It's able to tell us that num3 is greater. So by specifying this condition, it's able to dictate which one is greater. And this is just like method of calling back the function. And another example is just like, okay, checking for the first age, which is Emin, Femin and Flourish. We are trying to write a code, a function, to check the age that are greater. So if age 1 is greater than, just like the way we specify in the number, now age 1 is 33, which is the first age is Emi, while the second age is Femi, the third age is Flourish. So age 1 is 33, age 2 is 23, and age 3 is 22. So let's check the one. We can see that age 33 is greater than the other. So if we run it now, we can see that Emi is older than Femi and Flourish, and we can see that the first age is Emi, and we can see that Emi is able to dictate it that Emi is older than Femi and Flourish. So if I try to increase the up to 50, I can see now that my result changed. Femi is older than Emi and Flourish. And if I try to probably increase the last one, it's going to tell me that Flourish is older than Femi. So these are just basic function whereby we combine conditional statements just to figure out, to compare, to check different condition. And don't forget that one of the key things that is very important to know while writing a Python function is you always start with def, you write the function name, there must not be a space while writing a function name, you must understand if it is a keyword argument or positional argument, then after that you have to return any value you want, then also you have to call the function. So if you don't call the function, you will not see the output. Thanks for watching. Bye.